This human being was in a cave for 27 hours, pressing his upside-down body. And to save him, the biggest rescuers come. And then something happens, which makes people go crazy. If you have a weak heart, then don't watch the video further, because after listening to the story, the best of the best people start getting scared. This is the most unusual and most terrifying death. In caving history, this is the story of Nutty Putty Cave. On November 24th, 2009, a 26-year-old boy named John Edward took a leave from his job and reached his home in Utah. And when he met his family there, all the family members made a plan to celebrate this vacation in a good way. And then they make a plan to explore Nutty Putty Cave. And this plan was going to be the most terrifying decision of his life. So, the plan of all the family members is that they will go to explore Nutty Putty Cave at 8 o'clock on the night of November 24th. And after a few hours, they will come back home. But no one could have imagined, although John was going to go to this cave for the first time, but he had a little bit of caving experience, because he used to do caving with his younger brother in his childhood. There is a section in the cave which is very challenging, like it is called the birth canal, which is very narrow and tight, because of which even the experienced cavers are not able to squeeze their body out of it. Someone's hips and shoulders get stuck there, and no matter how hard they try, they can't get out. And to get them out, a rescue team is needed. And because of this cave was closed years ago. And this Nutty Putty Cave was reopened in March 2009 with some new rules. The rules were that 21 days before entering the cave, you have to take a permit from the authorities. And it was compulsory for every group of cavers to have 2 experienced cavers. John and his 13-year-old younger brother, Joss, both were experienced cavers. So he gets a permit to go inside. And then all the family members reach the entrance of the cave, which was only 30 inches in size. And they all enter the cave at 8 o'clock on the night of November 24th. The whole group enters the cave, and everything is fine for the first hour. And all the people are moving forward confidently. But then John and Joss and his 2 friends stop at the place of the big slide. And looking at a map, they decide to visit the most challenging birth canal of the cave, which is in the deepest section of the cave. It is so tight that only a few people can cross it, and it is believed that there's a long, tight passage here. And if you cross it, there will be another long passage at the end. And if you cross it, there will be a small room at the end where you will get a chance to turn, and then you can come back from there. However, it is so tight that the experienced caver also gets suffocated, and he panics. John and his younger brother Joss, who was following him, find a birth canal, and they both enter the birth canal. But the mistake here is that the route in which John and Joss entered was not the birth canal route. John and Joss had actually entered the wrong route, about which they had no idea. John moves 15 feet ahead, and in the meantime, there are many rocks in front of him. Although John was healthy, he could have moved his body in a different orientation. He folds his shoulders and legs in the right direction and moves forward. And John had now entered the corkscrew route. And the way John was moving forward, the passage was getting tighter, and he could not turn back because the passage was actually very tight. He thought he was in the birth canal, and he knew that there would be a small room at the end, and he would get a chance to turn. And that's why he moves forward. And this was the place where things get worse. Until now, he had entered the corkscrew area. To cross this corkscrew area, the caver needed to be very small and flexible, and only a few people could cross it with their skills, and from there, the caver had to bend 90 degrees from the rock left. Till now, the left side of John had turned from the small area, and after this, he reaches the most difficult section. 5 years ago, a 16-year-old boy, Brock Clark, got stuck in this corkscrew section. His height was only 5 feet 7 inches, and his weight was 63 kilograms, and it took him 14 hours. John was also at this exact spot, whereas his height was 6 feet, and his weight was 90 kilograms here. He had no option to turn his body and come back because of this small space. Even though he didn't want to, he moved forward, squishing himself toward the laid area. Although this area was tight, John thought that this is the tightest part of the birth canal, and that there will be a bigger space, and he will get a chance to turn there, and he moves forward by pressing his stomach with the help of the rock. He was moving in the dawn of direction, and John didn't know where he had reached exactly. He was sure that he will get an opening ahead. And then he starts following the speed and holds himself with his hands and shouts loudly towards his brother, Joss, "Don't come here. Don't follow me." He had to move forward to get out. And then John sees a glimpse of a hole through his headlamp, and a hope arises in him. But this was the biggest and the last mistake of his life. He moves forward and puts his head in the hole, and the tunnel he was going through was unknown. And now he had reached there, and the tunnel was even tighter, and the space was very less. And as he thought that he would get an opening ahead, but the road was closed, this was the ending of the whole cave passage. The space of this place was 18 by 1 inch, which means it was in a completely upside down position, like a laptop screen, which means the head was down and the legs were up, and it was turned in a 70-degree angle. He tries to push himself up, but this hole was exhausting. One of his hands was stuck in a useless position, and the other hand was turned towards his chest. He tries to push himself with the help of the wall, but he soon realizes that despite all his efforts, he can't move, and his legs were also stuck in the smallest side of the hole. He shouts to Joss again while Joss was behind him on the corkscrew path. But he doesn't cross this area like his brother, but he moves his feet forward and then puts his head back so that he can easily return from the front. He could hear Joss' voice, and finally he reaches a place where he sees that Joss is stuck in a hole, and the hole has swallowed him, and only his 2 legs can be seen. He tries to pull his legs from his legs, but Joss comes up a little, and then he loses his grip, and Joss goes back to his initial position. He couldn't do anything by doing this again, and both of them get frustrated. And Joss realizes that he has to take the help of a professional rescuer, and it is decided between both of them that Joss will go out to get help, and John will try his best to stay relaxed and breathe slowly, because there was a huge lack of oxygen here. Anyway, Joss comes out of the cave and informs everyone about it, and the rescue team is called. The biggest problem here was that John was in a side-down position, and the rescue doctor believes that because of being in a side-down position, he can only stay alive for 8 hours, and then all the organs will start failing, and he might get a cardiac arrest. The biggest problem here was that John was in a side-down position, and the rescue doctor believes that because of being in a side-down position, he can only stay alive for 8 hours, and then all the organs will start failing, and he might get a cardiac arrest. For John's rescue, a female rescuer goes in whose name was Sushi, and she ties a rope around her feet so that she doesn't get stuck inside. Her height was only 5.3 feet, which makes it very easy for Sushi to cross the corkscrew area, and at 12.30 at night, she meets John, and it has been 9 hours since John was trapped there. Then Sushi and John talk. "Hi John, my name is Sushi. Let's see how it's going." "Hi Sushi, thank you for coming, but I really want to get out." "Oh no, worry John, you're going to be out of here." Seeing this professional help, John thought he would get out of here, but he was wrong. Seeing this, Sushi understood that this situation is worse than it looks. Sushi ties John's feet with a rope and tries to pull it, but there was too much friction in the rope, so she couldn't pull the rope effectively. Sushi tries her best, but she also gets frustrated in 2 hours, and she also has to get out of here. All the rescuers outside make a plan to get John out. The decision is taken that a pulley system will be installed there, and it will be pulled by a machine, because 5 years ago Brock Clark was also stuck in the corkscrew area, so he was pulled out of the pulley system. All the pieces of the equipment were taking hours to get to the other side of the cork, and the tunnel was extremely tight, and only a small tool could be taken inside. And to assist, only one person could be there, and that person had to be small and flexible in height, so that he could cross the tunnel easily. This was not a simple situation, and every pulley system was taking hours to get installed, and during this time, they were trying to keep John relaxed by talking to him. It had been 12 hours since John was stuck there, and he spends his entire night in an upside-down position, and also there's a physical limitation of a body to stay in such a position, and he had also crossed that limitation. His 90 kilograms body was struggling with the pressure of gravity, and his blood circulation was getting disturbed, and he was slowly losing his breath because of spending an entire night here. This work was getting aggressive, and his legs stopped working. It was very painful for the rescuer and John's family to see him in such a condition, but they were also helpless, and the rescuer was also getting exhausted while drilling. The rescuer knew that he can come out of the tunnel whenever he wants, but this was not in John's destiny. He was worried and was trying to expand his chest so that he could breathe, and the oxygen concentration in the air was also decreasing. After spending so much time, John had a wide telecom system installed, and from the other side, John's wife Emily talks to him and tries to encourage him, and John also convinces his wife that he will come out of here soon and everything will be fine. By now, it was 4 in the evening and John had completed 18 hours, and now the police system was also installed and was ready to move. A rescuer whose name was Rion enters the cave and reaches to John. Rion says, "How are you?" "John, it sucks. I am upside down. I can't believe. I am upside down. My legs are killing." Miriam sees that he is hanged on the narrowest side of the body opening. So they first cure him, and then they pull his legs with a rope, but John's legs were in a lot of pain. Whenever he pulled, John asked him to stop because his nerves were now ultra-sensitive, and then they both stop for a while, and then they try again, and by now it seemed that the police system was working now. John was now almost so high that he could see Rion eye contact with her, and then Rion gives John an energy drink to drink. In the same way, 19 hours had passed by. These things were happening very slowly, and a lot of effort was also taking place. Although there was some success, but still it was very difficult to pull him out. John's legs were hitting the ceiling, and in that passage it was impossible to twist his legs. So Rion finally decides that he will break his legs, and in the meantime there is such an unimaginable thing about which no one could even think. The whole system had failed. A bolt that was drilled on John in the wall. It comes out of the wall, and it goes straight to Rion's head, and Rion becomes unconscious. And John, who was half up, goes back to sleep and goes back to the initial position, and now there was no response from John. This moment was John's final fate. Now maybe he could never come out, and when Rion comes to his senses, blood was flowing from his head. He was completely confused as to what happened here. Anyway, Rion is taken out and sent to the hospital, and in his place to get John out, his father Dave goes to the cave, and it takes another hour to install the broken police system. Dave tries to tie John's body with a rope, but no matter how long Dave stays there is no response from John. This whole-on operation could not have been possible without John's help. It was not possible that a 90 kilograms person could come out of the cave without his help, and when Dave was trying to tie John with a rope, he himself got stuck there for 15 minutes. And in the end, he also gets worried there and gets tired and comes out of there. Now Brandon Coles takes his place as a new rescuer, and then a telecom system is installed there so that his family can talk to him. But what Brandon was able to see, Emily was not able to see. John was not giving any response, and I don't know if he was able to hear these things or not. A few hours ago, John was breathing, but now he was also quiet. The rescue team makes a group in an area and decides that perhaps John is dead, and that's why medical professionals will be sent in the passage, so that it can be confirmed. The medical professionals confirm that John is dead. On the night of November 25th, at 11:56 p.m., an official confirmation is made that John Edward Jones is officially dead. 120 rescuers tried back to back for 27 hours to get John out, but it was impossible because of John's upside-down position. John was in an extremely inverted position, while the doctor had predicted that he would only be able to live for 10 hours in such a condition. This is really commendable. All the rescuers who went inside were really heroes. They deliberately went to such places which they themselves did not know about. How risky it is, in that a rescuer tells the media that this was the toughest rescue of his 29-year rescue career, and the authorities who lost in this rescue were trying their best to get John's body out of the cave. But after discussion, it is decided that doing this will be very dangerous for the rescue team. And finally, a decision is taken that John's body will be buried there forever, and the entrance will be sealed with concrete. And after a week, the entire Nutty Putty Cave will be sealed forever.